Hi everyone. In this module we're talking about inquiry, which, as you may know, is just a fancy word for asking questions. It's the academic term for asking questions. So let's look at one. Here's a question. What is your major? How long would it take you or any student to answer this question? What is your major? Not long, right? Would you say that's a good or thought-provoking question? Would I learn much about you or anyone by asking that? I'd learn one thing, right? Just the one specific answer. But what if I change the question just a little bit to this? Instead of what is your major, how did you choose your major? It's similar, not a very different question, but I would get a very different answer. I would get a lot more information out of it. So one big thing to think about in this topic of inquiry, asking questions, is what makes a question good or meaningful? How do you know if your question is a good or meaningful question? And if you think it's not very good or very meaningful, or if you're not getting the results that you want, how can you make it better? How can you make your question more meaningful? There is quite a bit of science and research behind this topic. A lot of making meaningful questions comes down to the words that you use. It comes down to how you ask it. So here's a list of question words. This is not an all-encompassing list. There are a lot of other options as well, but these are some of the most common question words. So let's take a look at these and think about how meaningful they are. There's a hierarchy of question words. Some question words are more powerful and some are less powerful, just inherently. And this is a general list. So looking at these options, you probably get that phrase in your mind from elementary school of the important question words: who, what, when, where, and why. But there are other words as well that we use to ask questions, like how or which, how many, how much, etc. There are also yes/no questions, or single word answer questions like the first one I posted, what is your major? So I use that as the first example, what, and that is an option on this list. What is a question word? And in that first question we decided it was not very meaningful, not a good question. So that's an example showing that starting a question with the word what is less powerful than some of your other options. The second example I posted was, how did you choose your major? And that's another question word option, how. It ended up in that case being more powerful than what. If you're looking at this list, you might be able to easily pick out what is probably the least powerful type of question, and that's yes/no questions. And there are certainly exceptions to this hierarchy where you might place which or how or why, maybe not which, but how and why is more powerful, and then yes, no, what, when, where you're looking for specific answers, those are less powerful. This is a general statement. There are certainly exceptions to this hierarchy. Some of the most powerful questions in our personal lives are yes/no questions, like, will you marry me? Do you accept this job offer? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Those are really powerful questions with a yes/no answer. But generally, if you're looking for a meaningful answer, a complete response, you would ask a different type of question. If you're trying to be thought-provoking for a class discussion, to stimulate conversation on a date or at a potluck, if you're trying to inspire creativity for your next gig or exhibit or an issue of a magazine, or to learn more meaningful stuff generally, you need a more powerful question that invites a larger, deeper, and more involved response than just yes, no, or a single word answer. So let's look at an example. Here we have 4 questions, all about the same topic. But each question is taking a different approach to that topic. The topic generally here is happiness in college. Read through the questions. The first one is, are you happy in college? What type of answer would you get to that question? That's a yes/no question, isn't it? Are you happy in college? Yes or no. If we change it a little bit, we'll get a slightly different and slightly more meaningful response. When have you been the happiest in college? So you're getting the yes, you're asking for the yes, but you're getting more information about that yes. When have you been happiest in college? And you'd get an answer that outlined some time, maybe some event or some phase. Another way to ask a slightly different question about the same topic, what is it about college that you find most satisfying? There you'd get some analysis of the times that a person has been happy in college and a summary or a conclusion drawn about the common theme from those times. And then finally, why might it be that some are happy in college and some are not? That would get reflection on personal experience and consideration of other people's experiences in college. And then some conclusions drawn about why some are happy and why some are not in college. So you're getting slightly different answers with each of these questions. You'd want to make sure that whatever question you decided upon was getting you the answer that you wanted, or at least touching on the topic you wanted. But this is a good example of how asking a question in a slightly different way can get you a more meaningful response in the end. That's important to think about for a lot of different goals. Here's some examples of questions that can spark conversation. If your goal is conversation, like if you're trying to meet new people, or if you're trying to have a great conversation online with people because you can't see them in person and experience things together in real life, ask some meaningful questions like, how would you describe your ideal life? What moment in your life made you feel most accomplished and why? So that's kind of cheating with two questions, but still. And then what was the greatest day of your life so far and why was it great? These questions generally get strong and meaningful responses. Also, they're cheerful questions, which usually get a good response. So the reason we're covering this topic in this class is because asking meaningful questions can really help with academic research. How can questions, asking meaningful ones, help you with your research? Asking meaningful questions can stimulate creativity, motivate fresh thinking, surface underlying assumptions, focus your attention and your energy. Meaningful questions open the door to change, and they lead us into the future. These are all results of asking meaningful questions that are pulled from an article that's linked in Folio, The Art of Powerful Questions. You can find that link in our module on inquiry. These are all excellent reasons to ask meaningful questions rather than less powerful or less thought-provoking ones. As you are taking on research projects in your classes, papers or longer-term research endeavors, you'll have to think a lot about the questions that you want to ask and answer in your own writing and research. Library liaisons are excellent people who can help you with that. Our library at Georgia Southern has several library liaisons that focus on specific subject areas. They work closely with students in designated colleges and departments. They're not just general research experts. They focus in certain subject areas. And they can help you by providing reference and research assistance if you're stuck, if you need help developing a question or finding places to look for ideas for good questions or ideas for good answers to your excellent question. They help with information literacy instruction, so you can know, that's another fancy term, but know how to find the information that you need. And they help with library collection development. So if you find there's a book or a database that you really wish you had access to, the library liaisons are great people to talk to about maybe acquiring that for our library, hopefully in time for you to use it for your paper. And there's a link here where you can get in touch with the library liaisons at our library right now. So our activity for this module is to take some time and imagine that you are writing a personal profile article for the Georgian. Your assignment for this article, since you've been freshly hired, is to interview another student about their transition to college. What questions would you ask this person to get a meaningful response about their transition to college? Take some time, just a few minutes, and come up with 3 questions that you think would be meaningful or thought-provoking to ask another student about their transition to college. Post them in our discussion forum that's linked in the module. Thanks, everyone.